At 4:12 p.m., my mother sent me a text. "Don't call. Don't come over. We're done." 9 words. No explanation, no context, just a period at the end like a door slamming shut. I stared at my phone for a long moment. Then I typed back 2 words. "Got it." I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. I just did exactly what she asked. And by midnight, my mother was calling me 11 times in a row because she had no idea how much silence would actually cost her. My name is Emily, and this is the story of the night my mother finally got the space she asked for and found out too late what she'd been standing on. I'm 31. I live 20 minutes from my parents in a small house I bought 2 years ago with a down payment I saved for on my own. Though not everyone in my family remembers it that way. My mother, Sandra, has always run our family like a company with one shareholder. My father, Walt, mostly goes along with whatever keeps the peace. My younger brother, Desmond, is 26, recently between jobs for the 3rd time, and living back in my parents' basement. For years, I was the fixer. When Desmond's car got repossessed, I covered the payment plan so my parents wouldn't have to dip into retirement. When my mother's kitchen renovation ran over budget, I quietly transferred $4,000 as a gift, because that's what she called it when she asked. When my father needed a co-signer for a used truck, I signed without blinking. None of this was ever framed as debt. It was framed as love. And for a long time, I accepted that framing because I wanted to believe my family loved me the way I loved them. What I didn't fully understand, until that text arrived, was how conditional that love had become. The fight that ended in that text wasn't really about the thing it appeared to be about. On the surface, it started over Sunday dinner 3 weeks earlier. My mother had asked, almost casually, if I could help Desmond get back on his feet by covering his portion of a family trip to Cancun that she and my father had already booked for the 4 of them, plus his girlfriend. $6,000, give or take. I said no, politely, but clearly. I explained that I was saving for a kitchen remodel of my own, and that I didn't think it was fair for me to fund a vacation for a brother who wasn't working while I was the one budgeting carefully. The table went quiet. My mother's face did the thing it always does when she's deciding whether to escalate or retreat. She retreated that night, but I found out later she didn't let it go. Over the following weeks, small things shifted. I wasn't looped into the group chat about Father's Day plans. My mother stopped answering my texts within her usual few minutes, taking hours instead. When I asked if everything was okay, she said, "We're just figuring some things out as a family." Not my family, apparently. Their family. Then came the text. 9 words, sent on a random Tuesday afternoon with no warning at all. "Don't call. Don't come over. We're done." I never got a real explanation. I still don't fully have one. What I do know is that "we're done" landed differently than my mother expected it to. I want to be honest about what I felt in that moment. It wasn't devastation. It was something colder and clearer. The same feeling you get when a long-running argument in your head finally gets confirmed out loud by someone else. I'd spent years being the family's quiet infrastructure, the one who covered gaps, the one who didn't ask for credit. And here was my mother, cutting me off over $6,000 I'd chosen not to hand over, as if 9 years of support had bought me nothing but the right to be discarded the moment I said no. So I replied with exactly 2 words, "Got it." Then I did something I'd never done before. I took her literally, completely, deliberately literally. I opened my banking app and canceled the automatic transfer that had, for the past year, quietly covered half of my parents' internet and streaming bundle, a temporary help that had become permanent without anyone revisiting it. I sent a short, polite message to the truck dealership's finance department, beginning the formal process to remove myself as co-signer on my father's loan, since our relationship, per my mother's own words, had ended. I texted Desmond simply, "Not going to be able to help with Cancun. Figured you should know before it's booked." Then I put my phone on silent, made dinner, and went to bed early. 5 o'clock to 6:45. Midnight, I woke up to 11 missed calls, 4 from my mother, 3 from my father, 2 from Desmond, 1 from an unknown number that turned out to be the finance department confirming they'd need my father to requalify for the truck loan on his own credit, since the co-signer removal request had gone through faster than expected. The first voicemail from my mother was confused, almost gentle. "Emily, honey, the internet's out. Is something wrong with the account?" The third was sharper. "Why would you do this without talking to us first?" By the fifth, she wasn't asking questions anymore. She was demanding I fix this immediately. I let the calls sit until morning, not out of cruelty. I want to be clear about that, but because for the first time in years, I didn't feel obligated to respond to an emergency I hadn't created. She'd told me we were done. I had simply agreed, completely, in every sense of the word. The next morning, I called her back. Once, calmly. I told her I'd taken her at her word. If we were done, then I was done being the invisible financial backup for a family that had just told me my presence wasn't wanted. I told her I loved her, but that love without respect wasn't something I could keep pouring into quietly forever. What followed over the next 2 weeks was uncomfortable, but clarifying. My father, it turned out, hadn't actually understood how much of the truck payment depended on my credit standing alongside his. Requalifying on his own meant a higher interest rate he genuinely couldn't easily absorb. That conversation forced him, for the first time in years, to actually look at the family's finances honestly instead of assuming things would sort themselves out. Desmond was furious about Cancun for about 4 days. Then quietly, he picked up 2 shifts at a warehouse near my parents' house, the first steady work he'd had in months. I don't know if that was connected to losing his free trip. I like to think it nudged something, even a little. My mother's anger took the longest to soften, and I understood why. Being told no by someone she was used to controlling wasn't something she processed easily. But somewhere in that first week, she admitted something to me over the phone that surprised me. She said she hadn't realized how much she'd been leaning on me until the moment she tried to push me away completely, and everything wobbled at once. I told her that was exactly the point. You can't ask someone for total distance and still expect them to hold up a structure from 10 feet away. It's been 4 months. My parents are managing their own bills now. Slower, tighter, but theirs. Desmond is still working, still living at home, but contributing rent for the first time. Cancun happened without me, and honestly, I didn't mind missing it. My relationship with my mother is different now, quieter, more careful, but more honest than it's been in years. She apologized, really apologized, not just softened her tone, for that text. She said she'd meant it as a boundary in the moment, not a permanent exile, but she also admitted she hadn't thought about what done would actually mean once I took her seriously. I've learned something from all of this. Boundaries only work when both people mean them the same way. My mother wanted space to make a point. I gave her the actual thing she asked for, fully, without exception. And in that gap between what she meant and what she said, I finally understood exactly how much of my family's stability had quietly depended on me, never taking them at their word. I still love my family. I just don't disappear into them anymore. If someone in your life has ever told you to step back, and you took them more literally than they expected, I want to hear about it in the comments. Subscribe to Revenge Emily for more real emotional stories every week. Suggested description copy for upload. Mom texted, "Don't call or come over. We're done." I replied, "Got it." And by midnight, 9 words from my mother ended things, or so she thought. I didn't argue. I didn't explain myself. I just replied, "Got it," and took her request exactly as literally as she meant it. By midnight, she understood exactly how much had quietly depended on me. This is a story about boundaries, quiet sacrifice, and what happens when someone finally gets taken at their word. Subscribe for more emotional, Real-life revenge stories, every week. Have you ever taken a boundary literally and watched everything change? Tell me in the comments.